first met Bill at the tobacco shop, and I think if you hang out long enough at the tobacco shop, you end up meeting everybody who is a regular. It was a while before I discovered that Bill was interested in photography, but by that point, I had already realized that if somebody I met there told me they were interested in something, it would be worth my while to look into it. And so I suggested making a film about his photos. And this was sight unseen, but when I got the photos, I didn't regret it. Of course, I asked Bill for some background about his photographic journey, and he was so detail-oriented that I thought perhaps it would be a good idea to do the narration myself. This suited Bill quite well. It seems that in 1986, Bill decided he wanted a hobby and he picked photography. He studied all he could from books and magazines and bought himself a simple Pentax camera. By 1990, he graduated to a Minolta professional autofocus of the 9000 series when it was in its infancy, and he was producing mainly slides on Fujifilm, 35mm, and he would set the aperture at the lowest ISO, 50, in order to get those long exposure shots which have very little interference, and they produce a quality of photographs that is quite meditative. In the 90s, Bill upgraded to Nikon. He got himself a Nikon F4S camera. These are pretty much all metal, very heavy, stable, very durable, and from that point he has stuck with Nikon. He owns a 1964 Nikon, which is considered an antique, and he has also a Nikon from 2017. Bill has lived in Massachusetts his whole life. He grew up in Medford, moved to Billerica, moved back to Medford to look after his grandparents, and then back to Billerica, over to Woburn in 1978, and it's after the move to Woburn that he became interested in computers, getting so involved that he built his own computer in 1995, in 2000, in 2017, and then just a year or two ago he upgraded or rebuilt his 2017 computer. Apparently, according to Bill, these computers are better than the ones you can get in the store. I find that just so amazing. I can't even grasp how one would do that. But anyway, he was in Woburn for 5 years, and then he moved to Wilmington, Winchester, Pawtucketville, and then over to East Boston when he worked for United Airlines. And at that point, he would go out a lot at night and take photos from across the harbor of the Boston skyline. Also, he focused on photographs of cruise ships, but he says that the QE2 was rather boring because it was just black and white. Instead, he preferred the Oceanic, which was red and white. It seems he was there one day on the ground taking photos of the Oceanic when a guy was passing by who had been trying to get a photo himself but not succeeded. So he asked Bill if he would send him a photo if he got a good shot, and Bill did. He didn't forget about it. And then a short while later, Bill received a rather large check in the mail. This happened again when he was taking a photograph, I think, of the Kenmore Shell sign. Somebody who owned a restaurant wanted that photograph and again sent him a check in the mail. After East Boston, he moved to Kenmore, where he lived at the Buckminster Hotel. I think it was for 4 years, and sadly the Buckminster is no more at this point. And then he moved to to Park Square in 2008. He had packed up all his belongings, including his 1,000 photographic slides, into a huge box. And it was outside on the street at 11:30 at night. And he brought up another box and received a phone call while he was up in his apartment, which delayed his return to the street. And by the time he got back down, the box had been taken, and along with it, all his photos. Unfortunately, this happened on his birthday, a rather unwanted birthday surprise. And since then, he has not built his collection up. And I think that he has sent me pretty much all his photos for this film. I asked Bill what kind of subjects he liked to photograph, and he said that he found people quite difficult because of the lighting and because a lot of times people are self-conscious, and that he preferred animals. He found animals and birds very easy to photograph. But after my recent experience trying to get a few photos of a dog, and I'm not talking long exposure, I cannot understand that. He must have some kind of gift. Maybe it goes with the fondness for the long exposure. Oh, and Bill is a cigar smoker.